While the Lotus 49 is considered one of the fastest cars of its era, on iRacing it's garnered a reputation as also one of the toughest to tame. The types of folks that willingly elect to drive this car are never one to back down from a challenge. So it's no surprise that they're going to start things off at the infamous Nürburgring as we get ready to watch round one of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Ossian Puhaka. Behind the scenes is our director, Robert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. 13 miles of a roller coaster ride. There's plenty of talk about with this circuit. Let's head to our track eye to learn more about it. Welcome to the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Most modern high-end series might use the GP circuit nowadays, but it will certainly never hold the respect and awe that the Northern Loop commands. Though it can be and is usually used in conjunction with the Grand Prix circuit for competitions in real life, here on iRacing, drivers can harken back to a time gone by and just run the 13-mile behemoth this place is known for. Nicknamed the Green Hell by three-time F1 world champion Sir Jackie Stewart, it is often regarded as the greatest test of a driver anywhere on the planet. Just looking at the stats will tell you why. More than 150 turns and close to 1,000 feet in elevation will pass you by in a single lap. Simply memorizing the course is half the battle for most drivers, let alone being fast. It goes without saying that this place is dangerous. Many fast corners lack runoff, there's blind apexes everywhere, and in a couple cases, even modern cars will get airborne. The list of famous turns is pretty lengthy, but some of the more notorious are places such as fluke plots, Miss Hit Miss, Bravery Corner, and of course, the ever-iconic Carousel. It's not just the places where you've got to move the wheel that get attention too. The Dodinger Hoa stretches for more than 1.5 miles in length. While you would think this circuit would mainly be limited to the track days most gearheads flock to for a chance to lap the ring, it still sees quite a bit of wheel-to-wheel combat. The 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, the VLN Series, and the World Touring Car Championship all still take to the track to this day. Many race fans consider this the mecca of road racing, and any driver who is able to push the limits here often quickly garners their respect. Drivers that have signed up today.
It absolutely is, Joe, and really, what can you say about Nordschleife that hasn't been said already? It's called the Green Hell, and it's called that for a reason. You got 20.8 kilometers, even in this layout, 13 miles of undulation, of fast straights, of straights with bends, straights with more bends. You got fast corners, medium corners, slow corners. It's the ultimate test of man and machine, or rather driver and machine, I should say. And with these Lotus 49 cars, it ain't gonna be easy in any way, shape or form. I have a friend who is now a Finnish Superbike champion that used to drive Lotus 49 on iRacing. And he used to say that this is closer to bike racing than car racing in the way that it's driven. And I think that's exactly correct. And whoever wins today will surely have deserved it.
No doubt. Speaking of winning, real quick, since it's going to be a little short here on the pre-race, we have the championship from last season, and Sebastian Tixier finally took his crown. He had been trying for so many seasons, and even he has said that from here he's not even going to go for the championship anymore just because he's achieved it and he just wants to have some fun. So we'll see if he shows up today to try and follow that up. Bill Tyler seemed almost relieved himself in second place there that it was over. I don't think he expected to be in the hunt as he was only 16 points behind in the end, so it came down right to the end of it. Jorge Nieva, his consistency putting him into third in the end. Mick Claridge, unfortunately unable to attend a few of the later races, finds himself slipping to fourth despite winning vastly more races than anybody else last season. And from there, it wound up being very close for 8th and 9th. Look at that, just 3 points between Grissinger and Laust Olsen by the final race. We also had the F2 championship. Ozzy, how'd that one go?
Well, the F2 championship went to Glenn Becker with 333 points. How satisfying is that Jeff Saunders wound up in second place ahead of Andrew Eng, a duo with a lot of experience with this car. Björn Ackerman in fourth, 2 points behind Andrew Eng, and Cam Porter rounding out the top 5 in the Formula 2 side. And let's see how many of those will make the jump to Formula 1 this year.
Indeed, that decided by the iRating of the drivers. We'll go over that in a second. But the Cup of Nations had the U.S. take the crown in the end over the U.K. Mick contributing a lot of those points in the end, but it wasn't enough to bring them to the top spot. Spain finishes third. And Singapore, despite their driver taking the championship, the Drivers' Championship, were only fourth in the end. They had Don Ho and Sebastian Tixier were usually the ones that were contributing the points there. It gets a little bit distance from there on down between the different countries. Australia and Germany separated by nearly a full 100 points. So that tells you how hard it is to consistently have your country score up at the top in this series. Real quick, though, let's go through the race details. What are they going to be doing around this track, Ozzy?
They're going to be racing, and they're going to be racing for 5 laps. Now, that sounds incredibly short, but remember, it is a 21-kilometer lap, a 13-mile lap, and it's going to take some time, over 7 minutes of it, in fact. So we still have plenty of racing to do today. Open setups with this car and no spare car. You can adjust it all the way you like, however you like, but if you wreck it, you bought it. Drive-through penalty at 17 incidents and disqualification at 25. And I'll tell you what, we're not going to need those. Usually it is a very, very difficult place to even take off tracks in, at least a plenty. And usually those X's take in trouble in more ways than one.
Looks like they are gridded up. We'll have to get going through this as Topi Kortaniemi is on pole and Jim Shedlick has returned to take second. Togo Hisada on the outside of row 2 with Ove Traingrade P4. Current champion Tixier qualifies 5th today as Luca Harrison is 6th. Bill Tyler, 7th. And it's Gary Ho in the 8th position. Norbert Rebelski, P9, and Xianyun Kai rounding out your top 10.
Yes, indeed. These qualification times from earlier to this week: Jorge Nieva 11th, Lars Ulsen 12th, then Richard Watson, David Rossi, Janne Lehmann, Matthew Maudsley, Steve Maurice, Gary Kellin, Benjamin Zogo, and Cam Porter rounding out the top 20. Yuri
Geisen starts 21st, followed by Michael Grissinger, Robert Plumley, and Timu Toika. Then it's Jack David Spickett, Gerald Borrell, and Jason Clapper. P28 goes to Jeff Saunders, Doug Cloud 29th, Joan Rodriguez in 30th, and Will Lamb and Andrew Dixon, your last 2, as it looks like the lights are up. The drivers have their engines revving. Ooh, somebody's jumped the start there on the 3rd row, it looks like, as the green flag is out and off the line. Shedlick is very strong as they come down into Sabine Schmitz. Is he going to be able to take the lead away? Track position is going to be oh so critical through here. It's a drag race coming down the hill, but it looks like Topi will hold on to it.
Yep, Topi will hold on to the lead for now, and in 5th place with a yellow helmet, taking a bit of a false start. Couldn't quite see who that was from the picture, from the view. I was too focused on the leaders. Now watching how they take the start. Already the top 3, maybe top 4, starting to get a little bit away, but it's early days still.
And it was Tixier, actually. I went back and double-checked. Sebastian jumped the start, so a bad beginning to the season, unfortunately, as we come to Flugplatz for the first time. Let's see if drivers can make it. You could already see Jim having to really struggle with the car, sends it into the air and lands it nicely, but will everybody else be able to make it through?
That is always a good question in Flugplatz because it's such a treacherous place. It's named Airport, and there's a reason it's named that. It's because the cars will take air. Of course, these 49s will take air in a lot of other places as well around this racetrack. You can see them leaving the ground, getting airborne multiple times over the course of this lap. We'll be keeping an eye on those, but for now, everything looks just about right. You can see a little bit of sideways action further in the back, and we'll have a replay as well.
I think, Laust Olsen went a little bit wide just after Flugplatz, and unfortunately put him into the wall. Thankfully, everybody was able to avoid as he spun off the circuit. No, I'm wrong. Who was that running into
Richard
him
Watson,
there?
I think.
Oh, boy. Sad to see him end it like that. as Bill Tyler seems to have some sort of problem as well, as he now is in a pit lane. Not sure what caused that. We're going to take a look at the replay real quick. Is this the Swedish cross? Yes, it is. Oh, but he doesn't lose it there. Down into Ehrenberg. How are we doing? Good through there. So maybe into the foxhole.
Couple of legendary places to have an accident in for sure.
So it looks like we won't be able to show that replay. Not sure what happened. We'll cover that a little bit later. Meanwhile, I think we're already coming out of Bergwerks. No, we're not quite there yet. Looks like this is down into Defense Valley as Topi continues to lead. Shedlick is running in second. Hisada third. Gary Ho just had an issue. He also has to take a tow to get out of the way. At least the drivers who are finding themselves involved in incidents, Ozzy, are doing the polite thing and towing as quickly as possible.
Yep, indeed, and that is a very good thing because this is not a wide racetrack. It's a narrow track. The walls are really close to you, and you can really bounce back to the middle of the racetrack if you are having an issue, if you crash into a barrier. So it's very good to get out of the way as quickly as possible, since we do have the opportunity to do that in this simulator. So please be considerate even at times of an accident.
Yeah, might as well not sacrifice everybody else's race and get out of the way as quick as you can. Meanwhile, they are now finally past Bergwerk and heading up towards the Moot Curve. Let's see who can make it through this very tricky, very scary corner, as it often collects a lot of victims. So far, the leaders all through there nice and clean, and Topi actually stretching away pretty far. There you can see the gap.
Yeah, he's utilizing his lead to his advantage in this uphill section. Those are some very, very fast corners, fast bends, and maybe Shedlick, Hisada, Trengered couldn't quite follow him as close as they wanted, especially Shedlick, because he's now in charge of this pack that is chasing Topi. So now they have to be very fast in this section that truly separates the boys from the men. And that is to say, from carousel to carousel. They just came out of the legendary Caracciola carousel, and now the next one is the mini carousel. That's gonna come in about 6 kilometers time. But before that, we have a lot of very fast corners. We're now at the highest point of the Nordschleife track, starting to come down the hill a little bit, and towards the YouTube corner, as it's known in the modern day, and towards these fast blind bends. And why I say that this separates the boys from the men, because these are all blind corners. You have to know, and you have to be very, very brave to take them as fast as you want. But if you are, the reward is truly magnificent.
Yeah, fast lap times are very hard to come by as they go past YouTube corner up towards Ice Curve. Shedlick still about 1.2 seconds behind. This is going to be critical here, Ozzy, because yes, he's fallen back by a second, but the straights are so long that I believe it goes back as far as almost 2 seconds that they can feel the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. The cigar-shaped car now coming through the Backman corner, as we call it in Finland, and then towards the second Flansgarten section, or the Stefan Belov S, as it's known as. Oh, very wide for Shedlick. He's using all of the racetrack and then some, and utilizing it really well to his advantage.
You could see how much he's sawing at the wheel as well. So many corrections that this car has to do over the bumps of this track. This is truly old school style. And Shedlick's going wide. He's missed the carousel. The mini carousel is going to lose him positions. Hisada and Trangrade move to second and third.
Yeah, and that Shedlick really making a crucial error, trying to get a little bit closer just before the long back straight, and then Dottinger Höhe straight, of course. But instead he loses everything, and now it's up to Hisada and Trengride to really grab the brass ring here.
Meanwhile, Steve Morris, I think, had a very horrible accident towards the back. We'll cover that in a bit as they go side by side for second. Trangrade, because of the loss of time with Shedlick, is not able to try and pull up Kortiniemi. Topi may be able to run away with this based on the pace that we've seen as they hit the back of Dottinger Höhe. Trangrade's now into P2, but will he and Hisada be able to work together to try and gain the time on P1?
It's going to be very difficult because you got a couple of places where you can technically do that work together thing. from the maybe the straight from Flugplatz to the Swedish cross. After that, it's so twisty and tight that you can't really swap positions. Next time, it's gonna happen in the uphill after Bergwerk, before you come to Mutkurva and so on. So there is a lot of places. There's a couple of places apart from the back straight that you can try and work together in, but really it's all about these corners and your performance through them. That is gonna make the difference. Now for Topi, he's not quite home clear yet because that is a very fast Norwegian that's behind him. And I think Uwe Trengride is about the last guy that I would want chasing me at this point in time, because he's not only a fast and experienced driver with this car, but he's also an absolute all guts, all glory type of guy. You can already see the damage in front of his car. Does he care? Not one bit, and he's gonna give it his everything.
Looks like we got a replay of Steve Morris's incident. Let's take a look here, see if we can figure this one out. It sounds like Teemu Toika might be involved in it as well. So this, trying to figure out exactly where this took place here, because it was a very tight piece of course from what I could see on my replay, but I didn't get a good chance to really untangle it. That looks to be Metzgefeld. I think that's well before where they had their accident.
That's down to Kallenhardt now. So they're coming to the Kallenhardt right-hand hairpin.
Here we go. Now we've got it pulled up. Flansgarden. This seems more like where it went down. Up and over the second crest. Oh, the car gets loose. And there's exactly what you're talking about. Bounced right back into everybody else.
Yeah, and that's a terrible... There's absolutely nothing the drivers behind can do. Like, at one moment, you're driving in a queue, trying to take it steady, just focusing on the apex and the corners. And look at Robert Plumley, absolutely plummeting. And he goes upside down, and you can't really see anything behind the trees, but you can just see a car upside down. Horrible sight that. Many more drivers getting stuck up behind him. And I think that's Stoika in the foreground in the number 6 car. And he had quite a difficult situation as well.
Yeah, we've now seen about 10 or so cars that have had to take a tow into pit lane. A bunch of them from that incident, unfortunately. Back up towards the front, Trangrade ahead of Hisada. He's hovering at about 1.8 seconds behind Quartiniemi, and they're getting ready to head up out of Bergwerks here pretty soon, through the Lauda Links and down into the ever-critical right-hander.
Yep, the exit from Bergwerk, you have to be really careful with that one. It's a longer corner. Can you imagine? It's a little bit banked off a corner as well. You can brake surprisingly late, then you have to get the late apex from the corner, and then you accelerate all the way. This is uphill all the way. This is one of those places where, with many cars, it's beneficial to leave it in 4th gear instead of going all the way up to 5th, or leave it in 5th instead of the top gear, in the 6th gear, for example. So it's really uphill once you're climbing all the way through here, through Mutkurve, and then through the right-hander. Oh, over! He goes around, spins, 360.
Wow.
He saves it. Dominic Hasek, ladies and gentlemen, look at that.
How did he do that? That is usually just a death knell if you go off at that corner, and somehow he's still going. I want to see an onboard of that save. He's still in 4th place as well. He lost 2 positions, and that's it. He's still going. He's got Tixier behind him, who is going to have to serve his penalty here soon. So I don't think he'll want to fight Seb here. Let's take a look at this. Up through the Moot curve, he makes it through. And I don't know if this other one has a name. I think it might be Kesselchen. But yeah, let's watch here. This is where it goes wrong.
Yeah, just loses it on the entry. Hits the left rear tire onto the grass. And then look at this car control. The way he's already anticipating the way it comes back. And not only that, but he's got 2 tires on the grass once he's recovering from that slide. So you have to account for that as well. You can't just slam the throttle and get away. The tires are overheated. And Uwe Trengeride really showcasing his car control here. It's bounced up in the air. He manages to avoid the wall. and gets back on the left side, doesn't start bouncing all over the place, giving quite a scare to the drivers behind because now they have to avoid a spinning Uwe at the exit of a very fast corner. But that was an excellent piece of drivemanship. That's now a word.
Oh my goodness. He'll have a story to tell after this one. Kortiniemi's now 3.5 seconds ahead of Hisada because of that. It seems to be, I mean, remember, Shedlik also had his issue and caused them a little bit of distance between Topi and the rest of the field. And now the second time we've seen that happen. And will he completely take off because of that? Now, this is the Japanese driver, also another former champion. In that number 5, trying his best to make up the time here towards the end of the lap and over Gallows Hill.
Wasn't Togo the guy who had that absolutely magnificent slide in Flugplatz a couple of seasons ago?
He was. That would be him. I was looking for a good opportunity to bring that up. And
Sorry?
Yeah. Oh, no, it's this is a good chance to mention that. So he also is quite the master at keeping things out of trouble here, at least enough trouble that he ends his race. And will he be able to use that to try and run Kortiniemi back down? Or will he be fighting with Shedlik, who's currently behind him on screen right now?
That is a very good question. Running up to Topi, I think it's going to take a mistake at this point from Topi because the gap is 3.5 seconds now. It hasn't extended too much over the course of a lap, granted, but Topi has now the benefit of being all by himself, whereas Togo has to also worry about Chim behind, and you can see fastest lap for Topi as well, 6:37.0. That's a really, really good pace that Topi is putting on here. And he's doing it consistently, and he's doing it in a way that he can keep this pace. That he can keep this pace until the end of the race. I haven't seen Topi really once he's passed a couple of corners, past our cameras a couple of times. He hasn't really been in trouble at any point in time throughout the race. I know it always looks easier than it is because it's downright sweaty driving these cars, especially at this track, at these speeds. But he's looked in control, and that's really trademark Topi here. Isn't he a bit like the quintessential Finnish driver? When you come to think of a stereotype of a Finnish driver, I think Topi is just that.
It certainly seems like it. Takes his wins with ease as well, kind of brushes them off as not that big of a deal. As we continue to watch Hisada with Shedlik gaining here up towards the Swedish cross. Let's see if he's got enough of a slipstream. Nope, they run out of straightaway by the time they hit Ehrenberg. So he's going to have to try again later, but he's still threatening and within range. We've also lost Gary Quellen, who had an accident some time ago. Don't need to go to that, but that was out towards the Beloff S's as well. Meanwhile, riding on board now with, I believe this is, Topi Kortiniemi that we see.
So he's got that fish, of course, on his left breast. That is the logo of Pike from Beach Racing. So Pike from Beach Racing, a new Finnish team. Really, Topi Kortiniemi, one of the founding members, I should say, with a team that was founded by Jussi Kataja, who is right now actually in Florida watching the 12 Hours of Sebring. So, or one of the Sebring races anyway. He's been sending pictures from there, but Topi Kortiniemi, part of that team. They got a young driver by the name of Aleksanteri Hanska as well, who is part of them. And of course, Teemu Toikka drives for Pike from Beach Racing in the Finnish Oval Series when he's not busy driving for, I believe it's Nexus internationally. So yeah, you can see Topi here looking like, you can see the effort level in his face. Even if it looks easy from outside, I can rest assured that man is concentrated, that man is sweating. Those rings under his eyes, those are not from lack of sleep, it's just from 2.5 laps of Nordschleife.
Yeah, and already this race just about halfway through. That just tells you right there. We're only 5 laps for this event. It takes a long time with the quicker drivers, under 7 minutes at this place, as he now tries to take it through Bergwerks, actually putting his whole body there into the steering, even though it's a sim, to try and get that car around the corner. And now, I have to say, this stretch right up here through Kesselchen, up the hill, is a lot less scary in other cars. This one, it always makes me super nervous, Ozzy.
It is. Now, it's flat out all the way up here, and this is where you have to really lift with this car. And then you come to Mutkurve, or what Jake calls the bravery bend. Right here, look at him clipping the apex. That was perfect, really. There's a bit of curb on the outside you want to take. This is once again a blind corner. No curb on the exit this time. You have to be really careful, and already you're turning 180 degrees back. And then if we stay on board just a little bit longer, you can see the Caracciola Carousel, named after Ludov Caracciola, one of the greats of the pre-war era, which is the pre-Second World War era, of course. The great drivers of the heyday of this track, one of the heydays of this track, wiping the sweat from his brow, and then coming once again back to this fast left-right, that you really have to go down a gear in the middle of this one and then nail the apex, then the highest point of the track, turning right here, late apex once again, left and then right, and again brake here. That's it. Good job, Topi. And you want to keep it planted all the way to the exit. This is a surprisingly fast corner. You can cut the curb. Not many places you can do that out here in Nordschleife. And over the brow of the hill, coming left and then downhill towards the right and YouTube corner and those kind of places, which is once again, you can just see how blind it is, and this is more visibility that Topi is getting behind the wheel of his car right now. So you really have to know where you're going, and you have to have that confidence, that mindset that, okay, this corner is going to be exactly how I remember it. I can enter at this speed, especially with Lotus 49, because once you enter the corner, there is not a thing you can do to change the trajectory of the car, which is what you can do with slower cars once you're like committed to it. So you really have to have that commitment and that bravery and that correct mindset.
Well, Ove Trangrade's got the mindset that he's trying to make up for his mistake. Look how close he's got to Jim Shedlick now. And I love the angles that we get from Dougie on this one as the cars just leap over so many parts of the course. You can see the suspension really moving around and up through Swallowtail, now heading to the mini carousel. It's not going to be much longer that Ove has to wait before he'll get a chance along the Dadinger Hoa, but he needs a good exit out of Galgenkopf here first.
He really does. He really does. And Galgenkopf, of course, was an old execution place. That's why it's named I believe it's the Dead Skull or something.
Gallows Hill is what I've
Gallows
told.
Hill.
Yeah.
But Kopf is head, actually.
Well, I think it's one of those, like, not literal translation, but intent, I suppose. As we watch them start to pick up speed, they go mighty fast through here, 200 plus miles an hour as they head towards the little kink on the straight. And no, Ove just didn't have enough. He might be dealing with a little bit of nose damage, I wonder. Yeah, you can just see it. That might be hindering his top speed.
Yeah, that little hill, Tiergarten, or Antoniusbuche, but Tiergarten section really, which is where you come towards the top of the hill and then towards the Hohenrein chicane. Tiergarten means animal garden. I'm sure I've told you the story of it before. So Tiergarten, the animal garden or the animal park, and you think of it, oh, that's a lovely name. It was a pet cemetery, basically.
It is a park of animals of sorts. They're just not moving a whole lot. But the petting zoo might not be open, but right now the battle is on, not just between Trangrade and Shedlick, but Hisada is being caught up by them as well. It's basically a fight for best of the rest. That said, it was 3.5 seconds to Topi. It's down to just below 3 seconds. So they're making minor inroads. It's just they're going to need to make a lot more than that.
Look how much flight they're getting. No, Shedlick. Oh, you don't usually make it back from that. Like, he was so close to the edge of disaster. You could already see him sliding down and off the track, and then at the last second he manages to grab the very edge of the ravine and pull himself back, like in one of those movies where just one hand keeps him afloat. Look at him going sideways. Very reminiscent of many accidents we've seen at Flugplatz before. He's already 2 wheels on the grass, just manages to keep it there. Had it been 10 centimeters more to the left there, or to the right of the picture, he would have crashed because he would have been on the grass again. But this time Shedlick survives, with the skin of his teeth.
And you could see it almost looked like it started with his poor landing off of fluke plots. I wonder if that's why Finns are so good at this combination, Ozzy. I kind of usually say that drivers need to do some time in the rallycross or the pro trucks to try and get comfortable with putting the car in the air and how to navigate through the air with it.
Well, it's not really navigating through the air. It's all about the speed with which you take the jump in. So it's all about that and all about the right inputs as well. You can really control it with either the accelerator, like if you come at full speed through a jump, the car's gonna jump with nose up. And if you brake a little bit, then you can get the nose down before the jump. And that's more like rallying experience, but you have to also know that. And that's one of those things you can maybe try and practice with motocross, for example, like with little dirt bikes. That's an excellent learning tool for it. But essentially, like if you brake just before the jump, it's gonna jump more level because it's gonna try and keep the nose down. But in that case, for Jim, he was just going a little bit too fast over the hump. That's his only issue. He was trying to take it at maybe a couple of miles an hour faster than the last time around, trying to maybe desperately catch up to Togo Hisada, maybe getting caught up by more draft this time, getting used to a rhythm or something. Whatever the case, he was going a little bit too fast and he almost paid a price for it, but this time he survived. And aside from having to switch to his brown racing suit, after the race, he's now trying to catch back up to Uwe, who himself had a scare and a half earlier in this race. But what I'm really curious about is Togo's pace, because you can see the gap extending now, but that's more to the timing, weird timing of this track. I think realistically it's more like 2.8 seconds now than the 3 we are showing. And while Topi is really fast at this particular section of the track, I think Togo might be a little bit stronger from carousel to carousel. It's not much, but if Togo can get less than 2 seconds away this time around, if he can really nail those last couple of sectors, then who knows what might happen. As Rebelski, I believe, has had an accident in the number 4
he did. Yeah, this was coming up the hill, unfortunately, it looks like. And Tixie, I think, had to do some big evasive maneuvers to avoid him, unfortunately. Oh, no, actually, he may have been involved. I think there may have been a contact between them that set this off. And you can see Norbert's trying to drive it back, which is going to be treacherous for everybody behind. Tixier served his penalty, came out behind Norbert, and indeed, this is coming up the hill after Bergwerks. Thought he was faster, and I think there was some net code. So didn't really touch him, but the internet thought they did.
Yeah, I would have to need to see another angle of that to really determine if there was actually contact. You can see pulling alongside nice and early. Oh yeah,
Nope.
that's some netcode there, unfortunately, and that's really, really unfortunate for him ending up on the outside wall. I've been there in the Nissan GDP a couple of seasons ago. I think it's a couple of years ago because I'm old and it creeps up on you all of a sudden. So enjoy your younger days when you still have them. Regardless, we are now watching Uwe once more.
Into third place because of Shedlick's mistake earlier in the lap, and now trying to chase down his Sada. Jim actually down 2 spots since the beginning. Very unusual for him. Jim is typically the one that runs away from everybody, but today just doesn't have the mettle to deal with the Nürburgring up through Swallowtail. Another blind corner here as they exit off of that crest and then try to tuck it down into the mini carousel. Both of them going to get it. And Shedlick's woes really began in that corner, as on the first lap, he missed his run into that banking, and that put him behind these drivers. It's been up and down since then. And right now he's on the downside of things, about a second and a half back from Ove.
It's kind of like watching Steve Prefontaine and Lasse Villain running away from everybody back if it was like 1972 Olympics or something. I know there were a couple of more people involved, but that's the same thing with this leading quartet of drivers. Topi Korteniemi, Togo Hisada, Uwe Trengrade, and Jim Shedlick. And behind them, it's 25 seconds of clear air to Sebastian Tixier, who did have that false start penalty, mind you, so he did have to serve a penalty earlier on. But still, it's like these 4 drivers, whatever order they finish in, they have all made mistakes and they have all lived to talk about it. Look at Uwe just drifting around the last corner of the track and then coming to the first corner of the track, and it's the final lap, and he's really gonna have to nail it if he wishes to keep Jim Shedlick behind him, because I'm sure Jim will be more than happy to just come in this position to the final straight and then nab that final podium position away from Uwe come in about 18 kilometers time. But I'm sure Uwe has other ideas.
Yeah, that was a big slide. That cost him a lot through T13. Interesting story about that corner, though. It's usually stands for turn 13 at most tracks, but here it's obviously not because it's at the end of the lap. Apparently, from what I understand, it is because that's the name of one of the stands there as they head through fluke plots for the last time in this race. This time, Jim gets it right, and now along Cottonborn, he's going to getting a big toe behind the Norwegian.
He is, but I'm sure he's not going to go for the move just yet, because why would he? He doesn't want to risk it here. He knows that it's not a really good chance to catch up to Topi and Togo, as boring as that sounds. With the pace difference being so little between these top guys, I think Jim just wants to hold it behind Uwe for now. As said earlier, by the way, regarding Topi and Togo, Topi Korteniemi's last lap time, 6:36.657.
Oh, Shedlick! In
Shedlick.
the wall! In the wall hard, and the car's crabbing. I imagine he's going to try and limp it home from the looks of it, but oh man, coming out of compression into Audenauer forced, he just pushed it a little bit too hard, smashed it into the right-hand wall.
And just when I was making a good point about lap times too, Jim, why couldn't you let me finish my sentence? Now look what you've done.
Well, Tixier might actually catch up to him. He's got to make up 21 seconds. Jim is just crawling this thing, and I'll be amazed if he can get back in time. But yeah, he's not giving it up. So I give credit to the number 2. The American is going to do his best to at least see the checkered flag. As now we look a little farther back. We haven't checked the mid-pack all race just because it's been so tight up front. Cam Porter has been having fun back here with Will Lamb hot on his heels.
Yep, 12th and 13, giving some shine to these guys. And mind you, Cam Porter started 20th. Will Lamb, he started 31st.
Yeah, so big gains there. A lot of times this is a track where if you can avoid the attrition, you can wind up finishing way ahead of where you started. Cam Porter, who is, as you mentioned, up 8, also doing a good job here today as we look off the back over the engine. Definitely old school style car when the engine is just out in the open like this. Yeah,
and you love that this is the first Formula 1 car that they put the winningest Formula 1 engine of all time in it. That's of course the 3-liter, naturally aspirated Ford-Cosworth DFV.
Absolutely.
And it won Formula 1 World Championships all the way until the 1980s.
Yeah.
So that is quite something indeed.
It took the turbo revolution to finally unseat the thing, which is just unbelievable. It was basically, for the late 70s, it was all Fords and then a few Ferrari engines out there.
Yeah, you had like a couple of those, and then it was essentially like Ford made Formula 1 their one-make engine series, more or less. Like you had the Ferraris, but that's about it. And you can see a lot of smoke as well. And that's Shedlick again. And he's now dropped behind Tixier.
That's because he's taken a tow. He's given it up. He must have made a mistake. Yeah, he tried to pick up speed. He was going over 100 miles an hour with a crabbing car. And I can usually tell you that that's a bad idea. And eventually hit the wall. There you can see as he comes to a halt. Someone nearly came up to him. That is always your worst nightmare, seeing the yellow flag and not knowing what you're approaching. That's the number 3 of Sebastian going by.
Yeah, and this is the onboard shot from Jim, and
get your barf bag out.
Give a barf bag.
Yeah. My goodness. Hope he's not racing in VR. But that's it. Day over. He is not going to be able to see the checkered flag on that one. on board through the carousel with Teemu. Despite getting involved in that accident earlier on with the big wreck that we saw from, I think it was Laust Olsen that was a part of that, Toika has managed to survive and is up 16 spots for 8th place, and that's Jana Lehmann in front of him.
Yep, Jana Lehmann and Ben Zoko as well. He can see him in distance, and if Lehmann is fast enough in this last section, maybe Toika can make it all the way up to 6th, and that's what he's hoping for at this point in time. Teemu Toika, the driver from Iitti, not to be confused for Kouvola, mind you. He's from Iitti, and he's a very famous streamer, especially in Finland. Can we give him a shout-out, actually? Do we do that?
Yeah, go for it. Although I'm curious how I'm supposed to know the difference between the two cities you listed.
Oh, well, Kouvola is a city, Iitti is a very small town outside Kouvola, and Kouvola has a bad reputation. Regardless, Teemu streams live at twitch.tv/Tesnaukin, so that's him, and I'm expecting my payment anytime soon, Teemu.
Surprised he didn't use Fat Teemu that everybody knows him by for his Twitch.
Yeah.
As Topi Kortsuniemi coming up Darinhoa is 3 seconds ahead of Asada. He still has to keep it together here. He could still wreck the car and lose the win, but it's not looking like it's going to be, as he has just been super solid during this race. Coming up into the last bit, just has to get it steady on the brakes, steer it through the final S's, and out of T13, Topi Kortsuniemi takes the opening win here today. Hesada with a 2nd place behind him, as there's the celebrations from Topi, and Ove will end up with 3rd in spite of a 360 at one point.
Yeah, and that is truly quite amazing for him. Meanwhile, further back, the action continues. You can see here in a distant 4th place, Sebastien Tixier. And tell you what, from a false start penalty and a bit of damage to his car, he's going to be happy with taking 4th in here.
Yeah, that is impressive, that pace, which makes you wonder, could he have been fighting Topi for that win if it wasn't for that extra time that he had to spend in pit lane? As the other drivers coming through, Zoko versus Lehmann, looks like Zoko's got him held up, at least for the time being. Ben, a quiet run from what we could tell to take this 6th place. Toika, very good on the binders, but Jana is going to hold him back all the way to the finish line, unfortunately for him. Could have a battle between Porter and Lamb, though, back in 11th.
Yeah, Will Lamb is looking to the inside there, just having to lift a little bit too much. He's going to have to be really good on the brakes here, and he's braking maybe a little bit early, a little bit tentative here. Let's see if he can catch up to the later portion of the chicane. Doesn't look like it. So, well, he can catch up, but there's no real overtaking opportunities here. So into the last corner, don't win it now, and it's going to be 12th for Cam Porter and 13th for Will Lamb, and I think both of those gentlemen will be very happy to nap those positions some points away.
Absolutely. One last battle I can see on track. Grissinger versus Clapper with Saunders close behind. Oh, Clapper having a big moment. Keeps it from winding up in the barriers, and I don't know how.
Yeah, he was wiggling all over the place, and it's still not over. He cut
Oh,
the car.
no!
He spins, and Saunders gets him. I think Saunders got him in the last corner. Yeah, he did. And Jason Clapper wound up finishing now 16th instead of 15th. Threw it away in the last corner, he did.
Kicking himself for that one, no doubt. But that's going to take us to a quick break while the last cars trickle across the line. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to the Nordschleife. Topi Kortiniemi takes a win. Not in the most dominant fashion we've seen from him, but definitely was able to pull it away from his rivals by the mid part of this race and basically controlled it from there on out. Toga Hisada nearly overtook, Shedlick nearly overtook him at the start. Is misremembered there, but Hisada tried to cling as closely as he could and wound up about 3 seconds back at the checkered flag. Ove Trangrade with a full 360 at one point, coming up the hill towards Stylestrecke, and kept it out of the wall to get a podium here today. Sebastian Tixier as well with drama here today, taking a black flag from a jump start and still winding up fourth. Jorge Nieva didn't really, I think, show him at all during this race. Gets a top five as Ben Zoko was 6 and Yanni Lehman finishes P7. Timu Toika was P8. After that, David Rossi finished 9th today and Matthew Maudsley gets a quiet top 10.
Yep, and we have more finishers as well. Cam Porter ending up finishing in an 11th place. I'm not sure why I give his name an Australian accent, but there we go. Will Lamb in 12th. They came up all the way from 20th and 31st, respectively. Jack David Spigot in 13th. Then you got Michael Griesinger, 14th. Jeff Saunders, 15th, just ahead of Jason Clapper, who threw away the 15th in the last corner. Jim Shedlick ended up classified as 17th, ended up having been towed. Andrew Dixon, 18th, and Norbert Rebelski is going to be the last driver who counts on lead lap in a 19th place. And then you got a whole lot of retired drivers. Just to name a few, Lost Olsen retired, Bill Tyler retired, some names I'm sure you know, Yuli Gissen ending up retired, Robert Plumley, as well as a lot of other people claimed victim by the mighty North Loop. In total, 22 drivers, but out of them, victorious was the man who's gonna talk to Joe Peak next, and I'm sure he's gonna be delighted.
Indeed. Topi, a bit of a nervy start there. Jim gave you a run for your money off the line.
Oh yeah, I got a horrible start, but I knew that if I kept the outside in the T1, I would got inside into, T3, so I knew someone's gonna back out.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, nobody's going to try and go much farther than that, too wide, or else you're going to lose a ton of time, I'm sure. After that, you eventually dropped them enough that you broke the slipstream. Was that sort of the relief moment once you were able to get them more than 2 seconds back?
It's never a relief at the ring because I knew I always make little mistakes and sometimes they might transform into worse mistakes. Like the carousel, pretty much everywhere. So it's, even with the draft, I can make a mistake and lose 2 seconds and the guys are in my draft again, so.
Well, you handled it well. This is always a really difficult one to try and come away with it, as you said, because of how quickly it can go wrong. Starting things off with a win, do you plan to be coming around more for the rest of the season, or is this going to be more sporadic once again?
It's not with the 49. I won't miss it, but I don't think I'm able to do the rest of the season because it's the Finnish Sim Racing National Championship starting, so I'm probably practicing to that. But I'd love to.
It's understandable that you want to go and try and go claim the crown there. Congratulations here for the win, and hopefully we'll see you at least a couple times.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Topi Kortiniemi, your winner here today, as it sounds like Ozzy has caught up with Togo Hisada, who thankfully didn't have the scare that he did a couple years ago up over Flugplatz.
No, this time not showing his drift skills, at least at that point. The young man from Japan, who is one of the best drivers in this series today, Togo Hisada, thank you very much for joining us. Second place today. Did you enjoy the race?
Yeah, I enjoyed this, but this is actually I feel like not a racing lap. This is a 5 laps qualifying lap. So yeah, I'm really sweaty now, and I'm grabbing steering too tightly, and hurting my left hand now.
I am sure it was. It wasn't easy. It is very sweaty and exhausting now. Togo, if you were, I know it is ifs and but and maybe, but if you were a little bit closer to Topi at the beginning, do you think that you could have battled him and maybe won him in a straight up duel?
Yes. Yeah, the gap is 3.0 seconds in the end of the third lap, I think. But since then, yeah, the gap is it's not the open lap, but yeah, also the closing for the pretty much same pace with Topi, and so yeah, if I catch his slipstream, so yeah, that means I can make the move to him, and yeah, it's gonna be battling. So yeah, but yeah, I'm so happy to take the fastest laps of this race today. So yeah.
That is certainly an achievement, and it is a small victory in and as itself. But in 1 week we will be in mid-Ohio, and that will be 24 laps of a whole different circuit. So do you think you can also claim the opening win of this series here, of this year?
Yes, I just graduated from my high school 2 weeks ago, and yeah, so my school entrance exams are all over now. So yeah, I can make the full attempt or no full attendance. So yeah, I'm ready want to take the championship again this season. So yeah, definitely practice and hope for the win on the next week.
And congratulations for your graduation, and also good luck for you next week. Togo Hisada, arigato gozaimasu for the interview, and good luck.
Yeah, nice Japanese. Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you.
Thank you.
So here today, and up next we have Cam Porter ready to talk to us as he finished 11th out there, up 9 positions. We got to see a little bit of your battle towards the end there, Cam. It looked like you and Will had a good back and forth going on.
Yeah, he was pressuring me pretty well at the end. In fact, his last lap was just 1 second faster than mine. But I'm assuming it was because of the toe on the straight. On the last straight, I was kind of swerving a little bit to try to keep him off, and thankfully I was able to hold him off. But other than that, the race was a little bit lonely, except when Timo caught me, passed me. But I was just trying to focus on survival, just 100%, just not fight with anybody, don't think about anything else but staying on the track. And it was successful in that respect today, and I'm very happy with the result.
Yeah, I completely understand what you're talking about. Just getting to the end of this track is always an accomplishment in itself. A good start to the season here, though, just about a top 10. When we head off to Mid-Ohio, what are your feelings on that one? Obviously, we tend to see a big influx of drivers for the ring, so might be maybe better chances when we head off to the U.S.?
Well, it could be. I don't mind Mid-Ohio. Not necessarily one of my best tracks, but I have done a lot of laps there. Back in the old days in R Factor, I raced a lot of Mid-Ohio. But very challenging track, especially in this car, and just hoping for another good result.
Well, at least the hardest part is out of the way early, so everything else, I guess, will seem easy comparatively from here.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Cam. Hopefully we'll get to talk to you next time out.
Thanks, Joe. See you then.
Cam Porter finishing P11, as that's going to wrap us up with a big thank you, of course, to the Lotus 49 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And thanks to the team today, Rob, Ozzy, and Dougie. And make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store, as well as don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Like we said, next race, Mid-Ohio, that'll be Saturday, March 25th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And up next this afternoon, the Camel GT Series goes to, appropriately, Sebring. That'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern. So until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.